Hi, Bowen. Welcome to 10 Minute Talks. I'm Harshadeva. Today, we are truly honored to have Professor Mukesh Kapila with us. He's a leading global voice in humanitarian action and peacebuilding. With more than 30 years of experience across governments, the United Nations, the Red Cross movement, NGOs, and academia. His work has strengthened sustainable development, humanitarian response, global health, human rights, and effort to prevent mass atrocities. Professor Kapila is also widely known for speaking out on the Darfur genocide during his time as the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Sudan, a moment that brought global attention to the crisis. He is the author of No Stranger to Kindness and the award-winning Against Tide of Evil, which reflect on his experience in Sudan. And today, he's joining us from Geneva, Switzerland. Please joining me welcoming Professor Mukesh Kapila, a principal leader whose voice continues to inspire those working for justice, humanity, and peace building. Professor, thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm very glad to join your podcast.
So let me dive straight into our first question. Professor, we are living through so many overlapping crises: Sudan, Ukraine, Palestine, and it's at the same time, the United Nations and humanitarian agencies are struggling with shrinking resources. When you look at all these, what do you think it says about where the world is heading?
Well, I think it is a characteristic of humanity that we think our world is heading anywhere. As far as I know, before we started, the world was circling around the sun and is still circling around the sun. The world is an inanimate object. It is only doing what it has done for millions of years. Now, if your question is what we as a humanity, where we as a humanity are heading, then the short answer is that actually our age, where we're living in here, is quite honestly no different than previous ages. We all think that we're living in the middle of history, which is unique, which has never happened before, and that we're living in particularly turbulent times. But if you look back in history, all since history began, the world has been turbulent. You only have to look at the big wars that are taking place, the big empires, the conquests, the colonialism, and realize. So, in that sense, our world is enjoying it's a moment of confusion and chaos, the good and the bad things in our age as it has in previous ages. So I don't think the world collectively is heading anywhere. It is just enjoying the usual mixture of good and bad that is part of the human condition.
Thank you, Professor. Let me ask you slightly different questions. You have worked in some of the toughest humanitarian and peace building environments. From all that experience, what are the top three skills person should have in this field?
Well, the answer depends on the individual and why they go into the humanitarian business. Uh, and quite frankly, let me tell you from my experience of coming across many colleagues across many countries where I worked in many theaters of war. And that is that although there are many good people, and we will come to that, there are far too many so called humanitarians who go into this business seeking fame and fortune, or well, at least fame. They go in for selfish reasons. They want to advance their own career on uh, and make a job out of the misery of others. And unfortunately, that has become even more the case since the work of helping people has become a business with the growth of international organizations, many of whom I have myself worked in and made a career out of, let me be honest in admitting. So It all depends on the values and motives that you bring if you want to go into this particular business. So, if you're one of the people I've just talked about, then you need three essential skills. One is greed, the other is ruthlessness, and thirdly, the capacity to create divisions and discord amongst others, because you can then benefit from that and make your own career and profit from that. Now, you can see that this is not the answer that you were expecting from me. So let me address the other side of the coin, which I guess is your real intention, which is for good humanitarians and peace builders, what characters you need. Well, all I can say from my own experience is that the more I've been enrolled in this business for the last 30 odd years, the more I have become uncertain of my own ability to do any good, uh, even though I try to do my best. So, the three characteristics which I think are essential for modern day good humanitarians would be firstly, a selflessness, do things without expecting gains, benefits, or indeed even results. Second, a humility, knowing that much of what you will do, many of the seeds you will plant, will not take root, and yet you must do what you have to do. And the third is persistence, because this work is not for the fickle minded. This work is not short term. It is for those who are, despite all the prevailing inhumanities that they will witness and encounter, which will test their deepest faiths and beliefs, they have to stick with it. So, persistence.
Thank you, Professor. So you have had incredible, demanding career with constant pressure and crises around you. How do you keep yourself centered and manage the daily ups and downs while still doing meaningful work?
Well, I think that to stay centered when faced with a very skewed world is something that only cowards do. You cannot stay centered in the face of a world which is not centered, a world where there is a lot of good and there is a lot of evil, and there is the agency to make choices between them. So, how can you stay centered? So, I don't stay centered at all. To stay centered is a bit like a man who travels in the middle of the road and is hit by traffic on both sides. So, my point here is that in order to be effective in whatever you do, you have to take sides, take risks, do some calculations, and in that process, decide what strategies you want, and thereby also bear the costs that are entailed in not staying centered. But I think our world is suffering from too much centeredness and too many people trying to be reasonable and centered. And that's why good people are not effective, evil people are more and more effective, and those who are victims of that are crushed in the center.
Professor, every word you say that truly inspiring. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.